Hello, people. Your boy LFC Plavi here, and I'm going to preview the Champions League final between PSG and Inter Milan. Now, I'm going to do it a little bit different from what other people do it, or how most people do it. I'm just going to keep it very simple. First of all, I'll be presenting my arguments and try to say what I think stands out for each team, and then I'll conclude with who I think is going to win it. So before I start, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and also share the video. Now let's get into it. I'll start by talking about the two teams and how their season has panned out so far. We saw that for Inter Milan, they battled for the Italian league right up to the last game of the season. So I would say that for them, unlike PSG, they competed at the highest level right up to the end of the season. When we look at PSG, we saw that they won the league quite early. They had about 3 or 4, I think even more than that. They had about 6 or 7 games remaining after they had already mathematically won the title. However, PSG also played in a cup final. So I think they've done a domestic treble or something. So they've won the league in France. They also won the cup in France, and I think some sort of a super cup as well. So both teams seemed to have played competitive football right up to the end of the season. But comparing the two teams, I think Inter Milan had the most stressful end to the season because they lost the league by just 1 point. Similar to what happened to Liverpool in the 2019-20 season with Manchester City. So Liverpool were in the final of the Champions League and they lost the league just by 1 point at the last day of the season. So Inter Milan is going into the Champions League final in a position very similar to Liverpool. Don't forget that the season before Liverpool went to that final in 2019-20 season, they had been to the final and lost. So Inter Milan also going into this final, they have lost the final 2 years prior, and this is their second final in 3 seasons. So they are going there with experience. The players who played in that final against Manchester City, most of them are still in the team. The same coach, Simeone Inzaghi, is the one who played that final 2 seasons ago. He's the same person going to the final now. You can't also discount the fact that for PSG, Luis Enrique has also played in the Champions League final and he's won it as well. However, when I look at the experience in PSG's team, the kind of players who are on the team going into this final, there are a few who have been to the final before. I think Hakimi might have been in the final in, I think, 2020 when PSG went to the final against Bayern Munich and Bayern Munich won. But apart from him, maybe Marquinhos was also in that team that went to that final against Bayern Munich. But apart from those two, most of these players are going to the final of the Champions League for the first time. So in terms of the experience of both the team and the managers, I would say it seems to me that Inter Milan edges it quite slightly in this final. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is the two coaches. So when you look at the two coaches, I think it's quite obvious. These are two elite coaches. They've won trophies everywhere they've been to. Simeone Inzaghi has been to Lazio. He won trophies there. He came to Inter Milan. He's been to 7 finals and won 5 out of those 7 finals. So this is going to be his 8th final. And if he's able to win this, then his record at finals is going to be truly exceptional. So I think that is good on the part of Simeone Inzaghi. For Luis Enrique, he's also been to quite a lot of finals, even at the international stage with Spain in the Euros. He has won the treble with Barcelona. It doesn't get spoken about a lot, but I think that is an exceptional feat, and it's a hallmark of a coach who is absolutely elite. So in terms of the two coaches, I would say they are both elite coaches. I wouldn't say one edges the other as much. The only thing that I would say though is that when I look at the two teams, both teams are well drilled in what they do. They are very, very well drilled. However, in terms of how the two teams try to create and defend, I think Inter Milan are the most well drilled, and that is down to Simeone Inzaghi. So he has been very innovative in the way that he's arranged things for Inter Milan, the way they attack with defenders switching positions with midfielders and also joining the attack in some cases is just exceptional. The build-up play for PSG, on the other hand, is quite obvious. It is always the same. They don't really change around a lot. But for Inter Milan, there seems to be a case where they adapt to the opponent they are playing with. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the various departments of both teams. Let's look at the defense first. In the defense, I'll look at Inter Milan as against PSG, and here I'm not going to use any stats. I don't like using stats a lot. I always go with the eye test first, and if necessary, I back things up with stats. But today I'm just going to go off with the eye test. When I look at the eye test, and also with a bit of stats, because we know that Inter Milan has been the best defense in the Champions League so far. So they've conceded the least amount of goals. They've kept the most clean sheets in the Champions League this season compared to PSG. So PSG conceded quite a lot of goals in the group stages of the competition. They started improving after the group stages of the competition. So when I look at the two teams, in terms of defending, Inter Milan edges it against PSG. But I also would say one thing about PSG's defense. PSG is able to defend by pressing high up the field, but they could also sit back and soak the pressure and play on the counter. So we'll come to the attack later on, but for now, in terms of defending, I think Inter Milan edges it over there. In terms of the midfield, now the two teams have extremely good midfielders. We have the three in midfield for PSG as Vitinha, Joao Neves, and the other guy, I've forgotten his name. Inter Milan, on the other hand, play Henrik Mkhitaryan, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and Nico Barella. So the two teams have very, very good midfielders. In terms of experience, like sheer experience across all competitions and over their careers, Inter Milan has more experience. However, experience comes with age, and these players in the midfield of Inter Milan are quite older compared to those midfielders at PSG, who are quite young, in their 20s, in their mid-20s. So I say that in terms of experience, Inter Milan edges it in the midfield, but in terms of energy, in terms of how well they can keep the ball, how well they can move the ball around, PSG edges the midfield. So in terms of the midfield battle, I think it's going to be quite tight, right? No particular team edges it completely. So we'll see how things pan out there in the actual game. In terms of the attack, now, when I look at the attack of the two teams, I have on the Inter Milan side, Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram. So the left winger for Inter Milan, I've forgotten his name, but he also joins the attack a lot. So even though it's more of a 3-5-2, it could also change into a 3-3-4 attack when they have the ball. So that is Inter Milan's attack. So when I look at the attacking record of the two teams, from the eye test and from the matches that I have watched, what I see is that Inter Milan are very prolific teams. They don't need to create too many chances to score a goal. So they easily get a goal by creating with their first shot on goal. And when they need a goal, they go and get it. And they begin to manage the game again. So whenever they score a goal, they go back into game management mode until an opportunity crops up, or they concede an equalizer and they have to go again. So whenever they need a goal, they are able to produce it, and they don't have to create too much to get a goal. When I look at PSG on the other hand, with Dembele, Desire Doué, and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, I see that these players are highly talented players. They create a lot of chances. However, the conversion rate has been a problem since I started watching them, especially in the knockout stages of the season's Champions League. They haven't been able to convert as many of their chances as they should have. So they even though they create a lot more than Inter Milan that do create, they need to create more to score. So they could create like 5 chances and end up scoring 2 or 1. However, Inter Milan may create 2 chances and score 2, or they may create 2 and score 1. So in terms of the attack, for efficiency sake, based on the efficiency of the 2 attacks, I would say Inter Milan edges it in the attack. So now, having assessed the defense, the midfield and attack for both teams, let's look at the goalkeepers. The goalkeepers of the 2 teams are highly exceptional this season. They have been very, very crucial to the progress that the 2 teams have made in the Champions League. Yann Sommer was exceptional in the semi-final against Barcelona. We also saw Donnarumma against Arsenal. He was one of the main reasons why they did qualify against Arsenal. So the 2 goalkeepers, I would say, is quite even. I wouldn't put any one of the goalkeepers over the other. So having said that, when I put together the entire analysis or the entire argument that I've made so far, I feel Inter Milan edges it quite slightly. And the reason is that they are very efficient in putting away their chances. Again, they are also stronger when it comes to defense. And in a final like this, you need your defense, and also you need to take advantage of moments. You can't afford to create chances and miss them. So I think PSG have a high likelihood of creating a lot of chances but end up not scoring. So that might be a problem for them. And again, when I compare the 2 defenses, PSG's defense is slightly weaker compared to Inter Milan's defense. So my prediction is that Inter Milan is going to win the final based on the analysis that I've made. So I hope it's going to be a spectacular game. It's going to be end-to-end good football. And mind you, some people think that Inter Milan plays a low block. They don't. When you look at the stats, it's going to tell you that they don't play a low block. They attack, they choose their movements, they sit in a mid block, or they press you when they have to, and they don't necessarily sit in a low block throughout the game. So you need to really watch them carefully to understand what they are trying to do, depending on the game state. So that is my take on the Champions League final that is coming up tomorrow, and I hope that we all enjoy a spectacular final. See you.